Good evening. It is 6 p.m. and this is a Oak Harbor City Council meeting, the evening of August 3rd. I'd like to call the meeting to order at this time. Invite you to stand and join us in an invocation tonight, led by Pastor Kevin Scott, Seventh-day Adventist Church. Immediately following, I will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pastor Scott. Okay, we will just do a moment of silence then at this time. Okay, I invite you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So tonight's meeting will be both a physical meeting location and a virtual meeting. Today's meeting, I should say, may be viewed live via YouTube and on cable channel 10 HD 1090. City staff are participating both in person and via teleconference. City Attorney Hillary Evans and Attorney Joshua O. of Kenyon Dyson are attending via teleconference. Guests that are included in staff presentations may be excused from the Ring Central meeting at the conclusion of the agenda item as appropriate. So I don't know that it's necessary for a roll call since our entire council is here this evening. So we will go right by that. I will turn to the council for approval of the agenda. If you have any agenda changes, I don't see any. So the agenda is approved as presented. We have no presentations on the agenda this evening. But we do have a citizen, we'll move next then to our citizen comment period. Citizens may comment on subjects of interest not listed on the agenda or items listed on the consent agenda. Citizens may also comment on corresponding agenda items. There are many ways to contact us, all of which are posted here. Citizens can also visit our website for methods to submit public comment or contact City Clerk Julie Lindsay by phone or email as noted here. When submitting comments, please include your name and address. Public comments sent anonymously will be shared with the mayor and council but will not be displayed. Submit requests to staff or department via the Contact Us form at www.oakharbor.org/contact. You can also call 360-279-4500 or email info@oakharbor.org. Additional options for contacting city council members are available on the screen. Council members also have individual email addresses, all of which are listed on our website. We've received several comments from the public since our last regular meeting, which were forwarded to council and will be displayed now. Okay, at this time, are there any members of the public who wish to speak to items not listed on the agenda or on the consent agenda? If so, the clerk will call your name in the order in which you signed in to speak. You'll get a chance even if you didn't sign in, but I'll turn to Clerk Julie at this time.
Thank you, Mayor. The first on our agenda is Brian Fort, who wishes to speak to a conflict issue. I don't know if this is in regards to agenda item 5 or... We will have public comment on agenda item 5 when we get to that item in the meeting. Next, Wendy, I believe you already also wish to speak to that item. Laura Renninger from the Oak Harbor Gary Oak Society would like to speak to the commission.
Good evening, Mayor Severns and council members, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Laura Renninger. I am the president of the Oak Harbor Gary Oak Society, and I'm a fourth-generation Whidbey Islander, and I've lived in Oak Harbor for 39 years. My home address is 730 Southeast Mailer Street. Oak Harbor Gary Oak Society, OGOS for short, is excited to share that for the first time ever, Oak Harbor's Gary Oak trees have a place in the newly published booklet 24 Trails Off the Beaten Path Field Guide, sponsored by the Whidbey Camano Island Tourism Committee. Page 32 of the guide contains the Gary Oak Tree Tour, published by OGOS in 2020. The self-guided oak tree tour includes notable oaks along Midway Boulevard, Smith Park, etc., and ends at the mature oak in Windjammer Park next to the newly installed interpretive sign. The interpretive sign's theme of connectivity promotes other Gary Oak trees within the city. Council will find the field guide, along with a brochure about OGOS, our original Gary Oak Tree Tour brochure, and a pressed Gary Oak tree leaf. Oak Harbor is the only city on Whidbey with a population of our native oak trees, and the Gary Oak is the namesake of our city. Since the pandemic, more day trippers than ever are traveling up and down our island. So we hope the publication of the Oak Tour within this guide increases ecotourism and recognition of this noble species in our landscape. When our group first started in 2015, there was little Gary Oak ecotourism for our city. Since then, OGOS designed and funded the Avenue of the Oaks project, was instrumental in getting the colorful oak mural up downtown near Smith Park, and designed and funded multiple oak-related interpretive signs throughout the city. Now, in 2022, our work encourages ecotourists to visit downtown and experience the charm and vibrancy of Oak Harbor through our beautiful Gary Oak trees. The 2022 field guide can be found in visitor centers throughout the county or online at whidbeycamanoislands.com/24 trails. The Gary Oak Tree Tour can be found on our website, www.ohgaryoaksociety.org. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura, and all the work your society does for Oak Harbor. Thank you.
Sorry. This machine and I have a love-hate relationship.
You take a quest?
Mayor, next on our list of those who signed up to speak is Kathy Harbor.
Yes, Kathy Harbor at 651 Southeast Bayshore Drive. And this is Billy Cook, who also lives over there at Waterside Condos. And in previous years, we have come to City Council with our frustrations about the neighbors across the street, the business that I won't name, but it was like a nightclub and restaurant. And now we're here just to say how much and how lucky we feel to have Orlando's as our neighbor on Bayshore Drive. Yay, so excited. There's no loud profanity going on in the parking lot, and there's less screeching of tires on Bayshore. And so I appreciate the fact that Rob Siebel gave them a chance to rent that space down there, and also Jackie, the mom, who keeps everything just right, and her sons, who are precious, I bumped into a car in the parking lot once and looked for the owner because I scratched the car, and I went into Orlando's looking for the owner, and Anthony, her son, that works there, he just came out and he said, it's not bad. It's going to be okay. Don't worry. I'll help you. So he was very generous with his time and his heart. So kudos to them. The next thing I have on my agenda is to say the wastewater, it does stink. And so please don't do a survey and don't make up a committee or a study. Let's just get it fixed. That smell is very bad. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
Mayor, next on our list, and you can say whether this is in regards to item 5 or another item, is Sue. Sue, please forgive me if I mispronounce your last name, Karaholis.
I am also going to speak to 5, but this particular topic is not 5. This particular topic is I'm here to respect your office, Mr. Mayor, but vehemently disagree with your assessment that the morale of the city employees is good, as you stated in the newspaper a week ago. It is not. To date, nothing in the employees' eyes has been productively done since the employee survey results were released. And Mr. Wiesner, you then proclaimed we should all have nightmares. You hired a facilitator. That was good. One who gets people to talk. That's good, but not a problem solver. So there was talk, but no visible action. You've had employees use their handbook, report problems. Then when they did, the investigations and reporting didn't even follow the handbooks completely. And again, that's a handbook that you and the council are bound and supposed to be supporting. I know I did when I was on council. Employees still do not feel supported. Yes, the supervisor and managers meeting said things are going well. Yes, work-wise they are. They're doing a lot. Because again, we still have, I believe, employees to come on board. This is not just the people that are on the street, the people that are working time to time. Most of your supervisors and managers are wonderful people, and they're beginning to build the trust. But again, they haven't, most of them, been here long enough to build that trust directly with the employees. City employees are working as best they can, as professionally as they can, and do not share much with supervisors or leadership, but continue to do their job well. They're not sure who will be their boss next and what repercussions lie ahead or who to trust, because at this time we've had quite a bit of turnover. And to you, the council members, I don't know what more we need. I don't know what more needs to come forward, because those employees out there are not going to come to you. That trust is not there. They're not feeling comfortable. You've received several letters, in fact, some that I thought would be shown because they came in, but I guess you chose to make them private. I also had concerns, and I personally did not attend Amy Wanamaker-Stevens' funeral, even though I have known her quite well, as my daughters were close, and as most of you know, as both a teacher and then later as working here in the council. And I didn't because of the fear of my talking with people and my maybe hearing things would not be well received. And I would not want anything more to be burdened on any of the employees. The employees are still working, looking over their shoulder. They're still working hard for us. But again, they are still feeling they do not have the trust full force, and that's what they're looking for. They need your support. I really, really urge you to do a separate investigation, objective investigation, not in-house, and have someone come in and help. There are too many of these people that are too valuable in too many ways in this community, and we have too much to go forth. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carhalis.
Mayor, next on the list, and Mr. Servatius, you can state whether this is in regards to item 5 or another item.
Thank you. Good evening. I would like to state for the record my comments regarding censorship, that I feel the mayor and city administrator are morally bankrupt. They have systematically ignored sound advice from their peers and staff while pretending to work in the best interest of the public. More specifically, and as recent as last month, they have censored public input sent in through the city's website. If the information is derogatory towards a certain council member or council as a whole, and it pleases the administration, it gets forwarded. However, if the information is derogatory towards the mayor or the administration, or someone they deem worthy, the comments are censored and not forwarded. If this is not the case, then I would like to know who oversees directing staff to censor the comments. And have all of the public comments, Mayor, received in the last 90 days been forwarded to council and displayed for the public? Or have all of the comments, as you stated at the beginning of the meeting, that have come in, if they were anonymous, you've fairly freely forwarded them up until the 1st of July, have those been forwarded to council? An example of this is a series of derogatory comments that were forwarded to council when others were not. And I find it very interesting, as I understand it, that the origination point for this particular set of comments is a cell tower next to the hospital you were staying at, Mayor, during your recovery after your boating accident and subsequent health challenges. Now, I'm not saying you or Rhonda sent those. I can read that into your facial expression. But what is even more interesting is that the comments all shared the same IP address, even though they supposedly came from different individuals. And this is something we should be looking into. I applaud Mr. Evans for calling for an inquiry into the administration recently. I think it would be very revealing. I've got a saying that I've often subscribed to, that the truth shall fear no question. Council, would you like to get to the bottom of this, or would you prefer to turn a blind eye? You need to ask yourself who you serve. Do you serve yourself? Do you serve the administration? Or do you serve the citizens of Oak Harbor that you took an oath to support? Thank you.
Mayor, that concludes those who had signed up.
Can I speak to that, please? Public comment, I'm in public. Could I do that, please? Councilmember, can I speak?
It is public comment time, so
My husband almost died in the hospital. He was in at least 4 hospitals. I have no idea what you're talking about. If you think that that came from Bob and I, you're crazy. Seriously. I was
Mayor,
praying for my husband.
Can I-
I'm sorry.
A point of order, please. I mean, we've not allowed
Okay.
public
Yeah.
comment to go towards other
I
members of the
apologize.
audience
Fair
in the
enough.
past.
I
so
agree.
public comment should be addressed to the
I'm
council.
sorry, I
Thank you.
agree. I'm sad about a lot of stuff that's happened in the city. But when you directly come up and say it came from the hospital that we were at, I have no clue what he's talking about. I would never, and my husband would never, insult this city. We have always loved the city. We've given our heart to the city. And if I had my way, I'd have him walk right now from all this abuse. He is a good man. He has not hurt one person. And to hear that people are looking at, and I don't even know what an IT hospital port tower is. Thank you.
okay. Do we
Mayor,
have-
that concludes those who had signed up to speak, except for those who wish to speak to item number 5.
Sure, okay. Mayor Pro Tem. Okay. Yes, you can.
My name is Ryan Stevens. I wanted to put a face to the name for all of you. Also, something that Servatius brought up, Mr. Servatius, I put a public comment in online. My name, address, everything. It was not shown. That disappoints me. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else for general public comment at this time? Okay, we will then move to our consent agenda. We will now move there, and staff has presented the listed consent agenda items, all of which were included in the meeting packet. And unless you would like to pull any of those items for discussion, those will be approved as presented. Okay, so we will now then move to the mayor's comments. National Night Out, thank you to all who turned out for a terrific National Night Out. Our event last night at Windjammer, special thanks to our police department, fire department, and city departments who coordinated the event. I understand it was a very wonderful time. Pavement preservation projects, road construction projects for pavement preservation projects will take place between August and September of 2022. A list of projects and expected project start dates is provided under Public Works City Projects on the city website. The center is air-conditioned. The center's HVAC system was fixed just in time for the recent heat wave. Community members in need of a cooling center are welcome to come by the center during the regular business hours. And then as far as upcoming events, we have a number that are being displayed on the screen at this time. Okay, we will move now to item number 5B. Or no, excuse me. We will have council comments. Yes, 5B, council comments. Yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say thank you to whoever in the public was lucky enough to go by Help House and to help celebrate their 45 years anniversary. It was started by citizens here in the community. Billy Blyle's husband was the one that helped do the nonprofit status for us for free. And at the time, he was also the attorney for the city. But it is enlightening to know that we are the only food bank in the state that does not close because we don't have food. We are open year-round except for holidays. And that says a lot. Everyone else is dependent upon government subsidies. We get a few of those, but it's the generosity of this community, and I'm very proud to be part of it and have been part of the board for a long time. So thank you, everyone. They can take $5 and make it seem like 50. So anytime you have extra change, Mr. Stuckey is also on the board now. And it's just amazing what they can do. But remember, everybody needs food to eat and their children. And we are the only food bank in the state that gives a gallon of milk, courtesy of 7-Eleven selling it to us at cost each week for school stuff. So no one else gives out fresh milk. So we are very proud of it, and I am proud of the community that supports it when we need it. And thank you all very, very much from the bottom of my heart. And if you didn't get to go by, have a piece of cake or a hot dog, whatever, please stop by anytime, Monday through Friday. They would love to have you and show you their warehouse and stuff. So that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilor Wiesner?
Thank you, Mayor. First off, Laura, thanks for stopping by with the oak leaf and all. And I just wanted to point out, I'm the city representative on the tourism board, and was privileged to have a little part in this handbook. What we want to do was create something that was small, fit in your pocket, inexpensive, with this type of binding, so that it could be handed out by merchants and folks in the area. And a lot of hard work went into assembling this, and really, really proud of the work the tourism board has done on that beauty right there. And then I wanted to request staff to come forward with some information regarding the odor complaints down at Clean Water Facility. If we could see a conversation about that, Mr. Oborn, on our next workshop agenda. I think that's an important item to discuss. If who knows better than the folks that are living down there? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Wiesner. I think workshop is fine. Yeah. Councilor Hoffmeyer.
You know, it is such an honor to be able to sit up here. Had a once in a lifetime opportunity on Monday. Captain Hanks put in for a couple of us to be able to go on a Navy cruiser from Everett to Seattle as part of the Seafair Fleet Week, and it was amazing. Jim and I think our drive started out of Oak Harbor somewhere around 2 in the morning. Got to watch the sun come up down there, get on this Navy cruiser, and, you know, go underway from Everett to Seattle. The crew was world class, so kind, so generous. It was amazing. And coming across Elliott Bay there in front of the Seattle waterfront with the band playing and all the people watching, it was amazing. So to have the opportunity to be able to be a part of something like that and represent the city of Oak Harbor in doing so, pretty amazing. You know, another thing I wanted to mention, the city retreat this year, because of the governor's proclamation, it was here in council chambers and aired on television, and it can be viewed on the city's YouTube channel. You know, at that retreat, we had every single department head of the city there, one after another. Each and every one of the department heads let us know that things are better here than they've been in a long time, if ever. Some of the city employees at the retreat were tearful with regards to how much better things have gotten. Staff morale is something that this council has taken incredibly seriously. You know, when we're out in the supermarket, when we're down at National Night Out, when I was down at Windjammer today dropping kayaks off for the Parks District, the employees are more than comfortable coming up and talking to us. And there's always a long ways to go, but things are heading in the right direction. And I think that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Councilor Heisen.
Thank you, Mayor. I am just going to plead, respectfully ask for our discourse to remain civil. I know that people have feelings, big feelings, I certainly do. But, you know, we are here to do the business of running the city, and what we need to do is, as much as we can, while still caring very much, do our best to remove the emotion from it. I understand that people are upset, but, you know, I'm disappointed to hear accusations and things like morally bankrupt hurled about during public comment. It's incredibly disappointing to me. You know, we are all, I think, doing the best we can, and you know, if there is a specific issue or incident or, you know, underlying factor, by all means bring that to our attention, but just please, can we just please remain civil? We're just people with feelings doing the best we can, and we're here to listen, and we will listen. Thanks.
Any other council comments? Yes, Councilor Marshall.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to take a second to recognize Alex Warner and John Pollock for their community service and customer service. It's very good to see those positive public comments, and I appreciate their efforts and working with those individuals on addressing their needs. So I just wanted to recognize them and thank them for their efforts.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Wiesner again?
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in. It was a busy week, like Councilmember Hoffmeyer said. I forgot to mention last week we had a fantastic meeting with NES would-be leadership. The mayor, Mr. Oborn, myself, Public Works Director Schuler were there, and we were there with the commodores of the local wings, the head of the Navy Hospital, and congressional aides and all the representatives, and very collaborative effort with our neighbors at NAS would be. Great outlook, steady projection of personnel through, I think 2027 was the projection they had provided us, and it sounded like $453 million, if I remember correctly, was the number they were talking about expending, and construction projects out of the base, which is more than they've spent in the last 10 years, and that's over the next 4 to 5 years. So great outlook, and I just wanted to recognize and thank the base for putting that together and having us out there and keeping us updated on what's going on with them. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Council. We will now go to item number 5B, 1. This is listed as a periodic review of the Mayor Pro Tem Tempore by the City Council per RCW 35A 12065. It's in regards to the fact that the city received comments on this item that were shared with City Council in advance of this meeting, some of which were requested as public comments and are displayed at this time. Before I provide my remarks, I will call for any public comment from those present corresponding to this item. And of course, at that time, ask you to please state your name and address and limit your comments to 3 minutes. But before we get there, we have comments to look at. So at this time, I will call for public comments from those present regarding this. Please come state your name and address. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Mayor, first on our list for this was Wendy Nitcher.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Wendy Nitcher. I'm a resident of Oak Harbor, and a former employee of the City of Oak Harbor Finance Department for 30 years, retiring July 1, 2021 as an accountant. I would like to go on record as supporting Beth Munns and her efforts to prevent the city administrator and HR from attending the memorial service for Amy Stevens on July 17th. I worked with Amy from the time she volunteered while she was still in high school until I retired in 2021, so approximately 29 years. Amy was an extremely hardworking, dedicated, loyal, knowledgeable, and confidential employee. She was also a very compassionate, giving, loving, nurturing, and fun person. Sadly, Amy was also very unhappy with her work environment. Amy commented to me that she was frequently sick to her stomach on Sunday with the dread of returning to work on Monday. This was due to the fear of not knowing what to expect in the form of harassment and intimidation from HR, which had been going on for a number of years while she was the accounts payable payroll specialist in the finance department. Amy had the support of the finance director, Patricia Sowell, who took Amy's concerns to the city administrator, but nothing was ever done to rectify the situation. In 2020, Amy had the opportunity to apply for and was hired as an administrative assistant for the Public Works Department. I believe Amy thought her issues with HR would at least decrease when she changed departments, but that did not happen. This resulted in severe anxiety, which was reported to the city administration by several employees, including Amy herself. Her concerns were met with meaningless promises of change, and nothing ever happened. Amy did not receive the support she requested and deserved from the city's administration, and that is why so many employees felt it would be hypocritical for the city administrator and HR to attend her memorial service. Beth Munns spoke to the city administrator with her request that he and HR not attend the memorial on behalf of the many employees, former and current, that knew what Amy had been subjected to and suffered through for many years. Thank you.
Mayor, next on our list to speak to this item would be Joel Servadius.
Thank you, Joel Servadius. What I'm going to read is a transcript of a voicemail from Mayor Severns to Mayor Pro Tem Munns. A little background on this: when Beth learned that she was being investigated, she had no idea, no communication. She reached out to the mayor, left a voicemail saying, "Hey, what's up? Why didn't someone communicate with me?" And this was the mayor's response. A couple things you'll learn from this. One is it just further typifies or exemplifies the retaliatory nature that's existed for some time here. The second thing is that the mayor knew Beth was gone for a month on her boat tour up in Canada with limited accessibility and limited communication when he called for this investigation in the series of meetings that you're all now aware of. This is the transcript. "Hey Beth, this is Bob Severns. Just giving you a chance to pick up if you can hear this, but I guess you can't. I know you're on your boat trip. It's about 3:25 here Tuesday. I think it's the 21st today. So I'm just listening to a message on my office phone, anyway, yeah, I don't know what time you called the office phone. I know you have my cell phone. You know the fact that you don't understand how your conversation got all blown up, or whatever the words you used were. Unfortunately, it was because of the conversation and because of several other things that the only way to handle these kinds of problems are to have an investigation as why words get used, why people do what they do. So, I want to be perfectly clear that I don't feel like you've been very supportive of me for some time. So I guess it's that in a nutshell. But it's not just about that. These are the mayor's words. You have some duties as mayor pro tem that, anyway, in my estimation, would put you in a notch above even a normal council person as it pertains to the way you communicate with employees, or don't. So I guess I'll just leave it at that. Try to respond, and there it is. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye." I'd like to repeat the final sentiment from the mayor. So I'm repeating his words. "I want to be perfectly clear that I don't feel you've been very supportive of me for some time. So I guess it's that in a nutshell. Mayor, your actions are completely retaliatory, and that's been the case for some time now for both you and the administrator. It was demonstrated when we passed a vote of no confidence, and you chose to ignore it, and admonish council. It was demonstrated when all the comments were articulated in the employee survey, and you chose to ignore it. It was demonstrated in a meeting between myself, Ms. Munns, and Councilmember Mack when we came to you almost 2 years ago with some very serious concerns, and your response was so angry and violent, yelling and slamming the desk in front of Councilmember Munns, the Councilmember Mack and I had to slide our chairs forward to protect Councilmember Munns. So some of you new folks don't know about that, but let's have that conversation, okay? The council exists, Mayor, as a set of checks and balances. They're not your staff. They're not subservient to you. They don't have to show fealty to you. They work for the citizens of Oak Harbor to conduct the city's business. What you and Blaine have done is taken a well-meaning conversation and disgustingly turned it into a, for lack of a better word, a political spectacle to serve your own selfish means. And I'll end there. If anyone doesn't trust my reading of the transcript, I'd be happy to play the voicemail. Thank you.
Mayor, next on the list of those who signed up to speak to this item is Larry Munns.
Good afternoon. I'm Larry Munns, 633 Southwest Waterloo in Oak Harbor. I'm here to address the mayor and council in what I consider is a conspiracy to commit character assassination. I've been a strong supporter and confidant for my wife for 48 years, as she has been for me. It's become the time that I can no longer remain silent. Regarding this incident, I have heard multiple reports from citizens who have heard council members openly, condescendingly state that they value Beth's presence for 18 plus years serving the city, but it's important that we deal with this. Shane Hoffmeyer on the 27th of June, when he left a voice message for one of Beth's character witnesses, appealing to him to listen to other aspects, quote, "I have nothing but respect for what she has contributed to the city over her 18 and a half years on the council." For the record, Beth has been on the council for 14 years, 7 months, and 3 days. I suggest you need to get a new fact checker. And I would seriously doubt the credibility of whoever perhaps is providing you with your script. The event that you are generally talking about is a one-on-one conversation. There are only 2 people that were in the office that day and only 2 people who have a recollection of what went on. You have heard one side of that story for 2 months now. You're about to hear the other side soon. I had a really extensive timeline that listed out a whole bunch of events that I thought were interesting. However, I ran over my 3 minutes, so I had to significantly cut this back. It all started on the 8th of June, the situation. On the 9th of June, Blaine called the chief of police to investigate a threat. The chief investigates. He talks to those that were involved. He asks those not to divulge their conversations and don't discuss this until it's finished. On the 15th of June, Beth finds out from a colleague about the investigation and realizes that most all of the council and most of the admin staff are aware of exactly what one side of the story was. The chief ultimately finished his investigation, reported to Blaine and the mayor that there was nothing actionable to report. 24th of June, the mayor called for a special council meeting on Friday afternoon, late, to be held on Monday, knowing that obviously we were out of town. The council members' suggestions during this were, we need to investigate the situation, clearly after the chief had already investigated and completed his. That council meeting was canceled, and those discussions were rolled into the 29th of June workshop. Beth was not present, only audio. That discussion was deferred, thankfully, by the council until she returned. The following day, Blaine advises an HR employee that he wants to report a violation of city policy, workplace violence. This starts an HR investigation against Beth, citing violence against Blaine and Emma. I have one last comment about that HR investigation, which is yet to be released. That investigation was done by Leffler Barrera, directed by Blaine. Leffler's immediate boss is Emma, both of whom are named in the incident. I suggest this is not the way to get an independent, unbiased, transparent report. Thank you.
Mayor, that concludes those who had signed up in advance to speak. Oh, yes, I said those that had signed up. I didn't have. Oh, Brian, thank you. Brian, is that you? I apologize, Brian. Yes, you are on this list to speak to conflict issue. Yeah. If you'll please come to the microphone.
Hi there, I'm Brian Fort. Brian as in Brian Stuckey and Fort as in Fort Nugent. And you wanted address 640 Southeast 8th Avenue. Okay, apartment B5. Is that it? My grievance, I guess, conflict issue. This. Sorry, I gotta collect my thoughts a little bit. I guess just off of this, outside of this, I got 3 pages, but I do wonder, like, why it was brought up that why it was attempted to bring up the issue so quickly to the council member by Mayor Roberts Severns without her present. I would like that addressed. That would be nice. But so I'm concerned about the leaking of the alleged threat against Mr. Oburn. I believe it is a bigger problem than it can seem at first glance. Private matters like this being leaked are a threat to every city employee. It communicates that any city employee can lose status or employment over any misunderstanding. So to city legislative and executive leadership, I hope effort is being put into fixing these leaks. A home with an unfixed water pipe leak will eventually cause mold and induce disease and misery. So hopefully something will be done so that future conflict will be able to remain contained to its appropriate place. And finally, to the person spreading this gossip and this leak and such, assuming your intentions were good, you need to realize that you are actually living under the same fear that you have now caused others. You should seek therapy about why you do that. Maybe, who knows, it could be all sorts of things can cause that. Be a sociopath. You can have a traumatic event in your childhood that leads you to not do this. I'm sorry, I'm not making fun of anybody. That really, it's a real problem people can have. A lot of people do. Maybe you're brought up with parental figures that did the same thing to you. For example, rather than respecting your thoughts and feelings during a conflict, your parents never resolved them by communicating to you in a healthy way. I don't know, a therapist could help, or a self-help book on the topic of boundaries, or maybe just hearing what I'm saying and thinking about it. You can realize it's true. You're paving your own path to misery with your good intentions. And until you fix that, you will continue to unknowingly harm yourself and everyone else with a delusional belief that this is helpful. If you want to help, you need to stop spreading leaks and this sort of gossip. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fort.
My name's Sue Hollis. I live at 1085 Southeast Regatta Drive, B101, Oak Harbor. I came to support Beth because I've known Beth for over 20 years, and I've known Beth probably better because we shared a classroom for a full class year. We were both educators and in the same position, so we've done a lot. Again, we have ups and downs. We do the different things. The incident that happened prior to Amy Wanamaker's funeral was a one-on-one situation. Beth did step forward and formally apologize. for possibly misspeaking. Beth, as a concerned employee, did go to Mr. Oborn to share the concern many had expressed out loud, and you have heard that. You've heard that the Stevens family and the Wanamaker family did want and need help and support. They were feeling it. I've learned things tonight I've never thought I'd hear. What has been shared to date has been awkward wording threat. It has gone after Beth. Beth has been shown and tossed around to be anything other than what I know Beth to be. And I am concerned about that. I'm extremely concerned, yes, for the employees, but I also did not know, and Mr. Oborn, I do not know you. But because of that, and because of what I watched and heard, the personality and character assassination of Beth, I started Googling. I have learned to come into the Google world. And I went back. I went back to the 3 jobs listed in California. I went back to the one that was between Reno and here. I looked at the newspapers, and the reason I'm speaking to this is part of what's been going on. And yes, no, I'm speaking to the fact that I support Beth, but I needed to go back and look. You've worked in many places. You've done a lot of things, so you should have the experience with all the employee relations. You should have the experience in working with it. However, when a situation that is one-on-one, and again, I have not heard all of the details, but what has been presented and gone around, and again, what has gone and happened to Beth, I wanted to see. And newspaper articles is what I saw when I Googled. I went to the newspapers in those towns, from Rhinedale and the 3 in Wisconsin, the 1 in West Virginia, again, 3 that were in Sacramento. I looked at the newspaper articles. Yes, those can be right or wrong, but it did speak to his experience. So again, I was shocked when it escalated to a police investigation. And I heard the rumor on the police investigation before it was supposed to be public. I should not have heard that in the town. Again, as I come back to it, I now have heard there's even more. And I'm going to suggest to you, the city, that now that there's something more, you maybe need to do what we had to do back in 2006. And that is, you contact your insurance. And your insurance company comes in, and they do a separate, complete, out-of-house, thorough investigation. And they bring it back. That solved our problem in 2006. Yes, the situation was taken care of. I was a witness to the situation. But it was through our insurance at the city that we were able to get back and have an objective, careful, out-of-house situation. This situation, at face value, it was a one-on-one conversation. It was short-lived. And Beth did something many people in town were talking about. Because yes, Amy had shared. And as a her former teacher, she had shared. And I have permission to share that from Ryan. I would not have done it without. I ask you to become fair, objective, and take this forward and not hurt any of the people involved, and do not keep escalating it based on rumor, innuendo, and things that are harming not only our position as a city, because the word is on the street. You didn't believe me before, but it keeps happening. And yes, Mr. Hoffmeyer, I heard you say there are some employees that are maybe new and yes, are seeing, and yes, there are some improvements, but there are a lot that are still working and doing a good job, but looking over their shoulders. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carhalas. Anyone else for public comment? Okay, so before I ask City Council or turn to them, I want to say a few words about this subject and the reason it was added to tonight's agenda. First, I want to apologize to staff and the community for this subject matter creating a distraction. some council members contacted me expressing their concern regarding the comments made to staff on June 8th. This created an urgency to bring this action item to the council for discussion at the earliest opportunity. Based on the feedback from staff and the morale study and recent conversations, I did not feel it was a good idea to allow an important subject matter like a threat made to employees to linger longer than necessary. After discussing options with our city attorney, we learned that this discussion must take place in an open meeting. The city has received comments in support of Mayor Pro Tem and the work she has done in and around our city during her tenure. As a council member, I want to be clear in stating that I agree, that I also appreciate her service and her many contributions. However, the most recent action is not the only action involving Mayor Pro Tem and current staff. There are a chain of events. Beginning in November, when Mayor Pro Tem booked an appointment with me in my office with no reason or topic included, except to say she was bringing another fairly new council member with her to the meeting. And then a third council member appeared just as we were to begin the meeting. And you heard from him earlier this evening. In this meeting, they demanded that I terminate the city administrator and human resources director without providing due cause. Other city council members were not aware of this meeting. In October of 2021, Mayor Pro Tem Munns and other council members presented a list of 8 items they felt warranted a vote of no confidence in the city administrator by city council. They met in executive session with the former city attorney and former assistant city attorney, excluding me until the very end of that meeting. They never shared those items with the public, but I subsequently provided a detailed response highlighting the inaccuracies of their 8-item list and denied their request. That was the second time that Mayor Pro Tem Munns attempted to have City Administrator Olborn terminated. Unfortunately, these are not isolated events involving Mayor Pro Tem Munns having negative actions with employees. I have heard from former employees that one of the reasons they left employment is because they felt threatened by the Mayor Pro Tem during conversations when she would appear at their desk unannounced and request them to share information they did not feel was appropriate. Additionally, employees have made comments about not appreciating the way in which Mayor Pro Tem Munns makes comments about staff during council meetings. The reason this topic is up for discussion is because prior to a recent memorial service for a staff member, Mayor Pro Tem Munns came by City Hall between her scheduled vacations to speak with the city administrator. During this conversation, she threatened the city administrator and human resources director by saying, quote, "If you attend the memorial service, you may be slapped and or hit," end quote. Furthermore, she told our city administrator that he and the human resources director should not attend the event. Oak Harbor Police was contacted, and Police Chief Dresker responded. No criminal report or case number was taken. I want City Council to understand these types of actions require time for staff to investigate, to work with our city attorney, and determine the best course of action to address the concerns. Overall, this is a distraction for our staff from doing the work our citizens are paying us to do and can create additional costs for the city. The city's Human Resources Department generalist, reporting directly to me, has conducted an investigation as well, and the results were provided to myself, our city attorney, and Mayor Pro Tem Munns. It is my understanding that on the advice of her attorney, Mayor Pro Tem Munns has 2 weeks from yesterday to file an injunction to prevent the release of the investigation to the public. As mayor in a strong mayor city, I oversee and have an obligation to our employees. I believe our citizens expect my office and our council to treat our staff with respect, to care for them and protect them if necessary. I do hear several comments about working here from our staff these days, but I know things are not perfect. I do feel we are working on it together, and I do feel we are improving. Our council, if council, wants to discuss hiring a firm to investigate any part of our administration, including the mayor's office and city council, certainly that is your prerogative to add that as a future agenda item. However, I do want to caution all of us before we move in that direction. Number one, staff has to be willing to speak to an investigator or clearly identify the problem or department division in which it exists. From staff's perspective, this report and their comments would not be confidential and could be requested by the public. Number two, the last 2 years, we have made some significant staffing and leadership changes in spite of a worldwide pandemic and the Great Resignation. We have many new employees in our finance department and have added a new director and several employees to the Development Services Department. Public Works went through some changes in leadership with Interim Director Mick Monken and now Director Steve Schuler. Plus, we are moving forward with a Parks and Recreation Department and Director position recruitment. Number three, I urge council members to consider how we move forward if we keep spending time and money focusing on the past. We all need to consider the additional time and stress for staff that investigations and discussions take and the cost ultimately paid by our taxpayers. I am not saying don't pursue them, but just consider all the factors. With these staffing changes, I would like all of us to consider a potential alternative to this in the form of another staff survey. We can ask staff to give us an update by sharing their current concerns, reminding them to focus on what is happening now and not in the past, possibly provide a time frame to reflect on. Have them present ideas for improving morale. Require that they include their name, department division, to allow city leadership and city council an opportunity to address issues. I am the administrative leader and city council provides legislative approval. You set priorities, goals, and approve our budget. That should be your focus. When staff submits comments about not having resources and feeling overworked, I have to also look to City Council to partner with me to address these concerns. As the ones reviewing, requesting changes, and approving the budget and setting priorities, you are vital to making sure that our staff have the staffing and tools they need to get the job done for the projects and priorities you are setting. I want all of us to consider how we work together to move forward. This type of activity is very damaging to our staff and their morale as employees of this city. It can make recruiting talented employees more difficult. I am constantly amazed at the excellent job our human resource director and her team are doing to recruit awesome individuals to join our team in the midst of these types of public conversations. Kudos to our employees who have joined our staff and committed to being a part of the team, even when these types of conversations are taking place. We should all consider the fact that potential candidates are watching these meetings and our interactions with staff. I agree that City Council was not the #1 complaint on the past survey, but upon reflection, should any of us have created an environment or been among the reasons given for poor morale? The item before you is whether or not you want to consider a new council person to serve as mayor pro tem in light of the accusations made by staff. At this time, I will open the floor for council discussion, and in doing so, I want to remind City Council that the community, and most of all our staff, is listening. So I'll turn to Mayor Pro Tem at this time.
Thank you, Mayor. Since no one has ever heard my side or my statement, I would like to do it first, please. If that's all right with the council members?
Sure.
May I please
Sounds
stand
like
at the podium so I can see all my fellow council members?
Sure.
To read it? Okay, thanks. Before I get started, I would like to ask our attorney, Hillary Evans, to please explain the public record disclosure, of which I have asked for 2 weeks to be able to look over the HR report before it's released.
Sure. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I spoke to the Mayor Pro Tem earlier today, and here's what I told her, and she told me she was going to do this, so I am prepared. Essentially, this is a fairly standard procedure under the Public Records Act. The investigation report that was conducted by LaFleur in HR is a public record, and frequently when there are such investigations done, they are subject to the Public Records Act and may or may not include various exemptions. Typically, the subject of that document is given an opportunity to seek an injunction with the court to prevent the release of that document, and they have an opportunity to review the document and to consult an attorney if they so choose about any valid exemptions that may be contained therein. I believe yesterday, or maybe it was the day before, we provided the Mayor Pro Tempore with the report itself. Only today did I provide her with the attachments, and I didn't get them until late in the game because they were a large file. So I apologize to everyone for that. And I myself have not fully reviewed every single attachment to those, even though I have had them in my inbox for a minute. And so as a result, in consultation with the mayor, following the Public Records Act, we have provided the Mayor Pro Tempore 2 weeks to, with or without an attorney, review the document and determine whether or not she's going to go to court to seek an injunction preventing the release of the document. It is my understanding, and Mayor Pro Tempore, please correct me if I'm wrong, that she has not yet determined whether or not she's going to seek that injunction, but it is entirely standard operating procedure to give her the time to review the document, determine whether there are exemptions, and to file an injunction. If at any time before that, obviously, if she says that she will not be seeking an injunction, that she doesn't believe the record is exempt, we will release that to parties who requested it and who want to review it at that time. I realize that this is putting a hitch in our giddy up, and everyone would have liked to have had it before today, but because the investigation itself hadn't concluded until 2 days ago, we just don't have enough lead time to provide her the opportunity to which she's entitled to review the document and make that assessment. So I apologize for the delay there, and I appreciate everyone's frustration. And I'm happy to answer questions later.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. That is true. I got the document yesterday in the afternoon by the time from my schedule, and was going through it and trying to evaluate and get my head around it. And then I was told that there were 45 attachments, and I did not get them until sometime between 4 and 5. And I just would like time to be able to read it, as I think any normal person would like to do. So that's the reason why you don't have it yet, because I still haven't read it all. So thank you. And I apologize for the wait, but anyway, thank you. This is my statement of what is called the incident on June 8th, 2022. On June 8th, after giving Mikhail the dates of our month-long sailing vacation, I asked if Blaine was available. When he was free, she asked me to join him in the office. He stood and gestured to a chair in front of his desk to sit down. He then also sat down and his door was open. There were some normal pleasantries exchanged before I asked him if he and Emma were planning to attend Amy's memorial. Blaine said, of course, and that he didn't know about Emma. I suggested to Blaine to reconsider going because of all the stuff that he and Emma had directed towards Amy through the past years. There are a lot of hard feelings towards you and Emma from the past, from some current city employees and some past city employees. He replied, of course I'm going because I'm the city administrator and will represent the city. I suggested to Blaine if he felt like going and he feels like he must go, please consider sitting to one side or to the back of the room so not to be so noticeable. I am afraid someone may come up to you and slap you. I hate to see that happen. In my opinion, there would be a lot of exposed nerves at the memorial with the mourners. I did not want there to be a scene. I was approaching Blaine to express my concerns. I did not expect Blaine to misinterpret my comments as a threat, nor did I expect Blaine's version of our private conversation to be exposed to the mayor, city council, and public to fuel his retaliation against me for the past actions. Blaine then stood up and raised his voice, accusing me of not coming or talking to him before the vote of no confidence. I said, I beg to differ. Blaine said more things, and I calmly just sat there and listened. After we ended, we stood up, and he was walking me out the door when I turned and said, I heard somewhere, a grocery store or whatever, that Kathy Rosen was trying to come into town for Amy's memorial. I thought you would want to know. We parted ways at the door. The door had been open the entire time. No one tried to interrupt us, and no one was standing outside his door when I left. I then reconfirmed with Mikhail whether she needed anything else. I remember her taking a note she was going to give to Julie with the dates and also putting it on the calendar. End of meeting. I left the building. It is clear to the outsider there is a huge division within the city, and it breaks my heart. This is just baloney. People out there have taken the one-sided version of this conversation, turned it into, called it a complaint, called it a situation, called it an incident, to malign, defame, degrade, and my reputation. Why? We should be getting to work on the city's business and moving as a team. I will also voice that I think it is a gross conflict of interest to ask your HR generalist, whose boss is one of the people who wrote up the complaint, and the big boss who's supposed to take his orders to staffing on how to handle them, to also put in the complaint. I wish and would hope that we would have an outsider do it. That's why we have WICA and stuff. And that's it, in a nutshell. I didn't mean to threaten anybody. Yes, slap was the wrong word used. I sent an apology. But I sat down the whole time. I did not raise my voice. And I didn't tell anybody else about this. I wanted to be private from a professional to professional. I didn't go in as Mayor Pro Tem. I didn't go in as councilman. I went as plain Beth. I care. I just care about people, and I was really worried there could be a scene, and I regret, but I'm so grateful that, and thank God that there wasn't. But I had been up nights, and it just played on me, and I had nightmares, and I just felt like I needed to say something, because if an incident had happened, I would regret it forever, because I hadn't spoken up and said something. Thank you all for listening. I appreciate it. And that's it. I'll answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I'll turn to Councilor Hoffmeyer.
First of all, I think discussion should be pretty narrow and discuss the topic at hand. So with that, I have a motion. I move to nominate Councilor Heisen as the new Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Motion made by Councilor Hoffmeyer, second by Councilor Heisen.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Just so I'm clear, I'd like to have more of a conversation before we dive into that. Would this motion take effect immediately and we are voting on that immediately before we have more of a discussion? Okay.
You want to speak to your motion?
I do. Beth, I have nothing but respect for you. That is very true. I don't think there's a person in the world that believes that you are a bad person or questions your intentions. As I believed in January, think that we need to move forward as a city. So that's where I'm coming from.
Councilor Marshall.
Thank you, Mayor. I would be interested in hearing Mr. Oborn's side of the story as well, if that's appropriate.
Mr. Oborn, are you comfortable joining us here, I hope?
I'm not really
Not comfortable.
I'm not
That's not a good
comfortable.
word.
So, did you want me? I don't really want to get into a conversational issue. I think I made statements on it. I think I stand by my statements that were made in the investigation. I think obviously hearing for the first time Mayor Pro Tem Munn's conversation, I think we have disagreement there in what was said and how it was said. As far as I'm concerned, I clearly took the steps I did because it was clearly a threat and clearly a demand that I not attend the funeral. But I guess if it would have been probably as what was stated by Munns, I don't think I would have, as she purported it here today, I don't think I would have filed the complaint. And I think as part of doing that, I think knowing the chain of the command and looking at how this could have been done, I think through the WSI training that Munns was capable of and received, I answered to the mayor and going to the mayor and raising the concerns there on the vote of confidence and on other issues is probably the proper way to do it, to handle it, and then let him kind of disseminate, and I take orders from him, and he could have ordered that. As far as the funeral, I mean, the mayor's health was kind of a little bit questionable, and I was prepared to give the speech in front of the city, and so I appreciate you attending with me, and I think we certainly didn't want to make a scene, and certainly I apologize for anything with, I think highly of Amy. Certainly, I didn't have the opportunity to work with her for 30 years like of a lot of employees. It was a traumatic day when I had to go around and with Chief Merrill and tell over 120 people, and a lot of people took it differently, and it was a really unexpected thing, and so there was a lot of trauma there. So I think ultimately I think we want to work on commonality. I'm an individual who wants to build bridges and figure out common goals. And so even though that we have differences with individuals, that we want to build goals. And I think the whole issue going forward, I think let's look at building goals and moving forward.
Councilor Heisen.
Thank you, Mayor. There are certainly a number of details and scenarios that we could kind of get in the weeds over on this, but to me, this is pretty simple. When or if a council member crosses a line, do we hold that council person accountable? Or do we ignore it? And so we could rearrange this scenario and say, I went across the street and called, Chief Dresker a jerk face because he gave a friend of mine a ticket and it upset her. That would not be okay. It wouldn't be okay. So, is what was said okay because it's Beth and because she does so much and everyone loves her so much? And, is it okay for someone to speak to Blaine the way she did just, because somebody doesn't like Blaine? If you rearrange the players in this scenario, you're still left with the question of what do we do when one of our members crosses a line? And that line was crossed. That's not up for debate. It was, Beth issued a formal apology and acknowledged that. So that, the seriousness or the circumstances, that part isn't up for debate. The question is, do we ignore it? Do we address it? And if we were to ignore it, do we not just ignore it, but then also elevate said council person despite that behavior? And that is the question that I'm struggling with, because to me, the answer is no. It's no. If one of us steps out of line, the only people other than election time that we are accountable for in terms of, personnel and HR and behavior and conduct is ourselves. So in my head, I'm rearranging the scenario and I'm thinking, what if someone else had done something similar to someone else? And in none of those scenarios is it okay. And if someone wasn't happened to be the mayor pro tem and have something that could be taken away, then what form would that take? Would it be censure? Would it be training? I think that these are questions that after today we should probably iron out amongst ourselves in terms of our code of conduct and our handbook, because there isn't really a roadmap for this. And, there isn't necessarily a procedure for, a censure or that kind of thing. So we're definitely in unfamiliar territory here. I just keep going back to, words matter, actions and perceptions matter. And, do we stand up for staff, which means all of the staff, or just some of them? That's just me thinking out loud, for what it's worth.
Council Wiesner.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, thank you for those words, Councilmember Heisen. The reality is, what you said is exactly right. I mean, as we learned there was an issue, which, we need to clear that up somewhere down the line. But when we learned there was an issue, council had to look at this and say, okay, how does this get dealt with? And the reality is, it gets dealt with by council. I mean, that's the mode, right? The council needs to sit in an open, public forum and discuss these kind of issues. Let's be frank. If this was a department head and something like this happened, there'd be a meeting behind closed doors. That's how it would be done. It'd be a personnel issue. The privacy of all people involved would be something that was taken in consideration until the investigation was completed and action was taken. But that's not what happens here. It's a good thing, bad thing, right? Council is being transparent. I mean, you're seeing all of our dirty laundry, laying out there, and I don't think there's a single one of us that are happy about being in this position. This is not good for Beth. This is not good for us. This is not good for the city. This is another division, right, within the city when we're, a lot of us are working really hard at bringing things together, right? And gosh, we've been through a rough couple of years of division and collaboration is what it's all about. And these are things we've been talking about and trying to do and trying to get with staff. And yet there's been a lot of changes and it's been tough. And this is not a step any of us want to take, but this is what it is. This is open government. This is as open as it can get. And so we're out here discussing, an allegation, made that against a sitting city councilman. But this sitting city councilman happens to be the mayor pro tem. And so the question in front of us right now isn't, is Beth a great person as she dedicated for 14 years, 7 months, and 3 days to this community? Those are not questions that we're looking at right now. What we're looking at right now is really just the business of the city. That's what we're here to conduct. We're not personnel managers. We're not investigators. We're not, the city administrator. We're not the mayor. We're the legislative body, and we're in charge of keeping ourselves in check. And we're also in charge of appointing somebody from the council to be the mayor pro tem in the event that the mayor is unable to perform his duties. So the question, as I see it right now in front of us, because Beth certainly has an absolute right to address that report. I wouldn't expect her to do anything else. I think there's obviously a resolution needs to be sought. There's got to be an end. There's, I think the WICA conversation is a fantastic one. Taking a look into this particular incident. This is the incident we're talking about at hand. I know there's some other stuff that's coming in around this, but right now what's in front of us is this one incident, this one issue that's perpetuating a conversation in open public where we're just now hearing from both sides, and I think there's more to come, right? I mean, so that is yet to unfold. But what the question is at hand right now, I think, as a council, is do we feel as though Mayor Pro Tem Munns, with this current situation and some other issues, involving, Mr. Oborn, whether or not she's in a position, and I guess I'm going to let the mayor comment on this when I'm done. So whether or not she's in a position to step in and assume that role, whether if something were to happen to the mayor, would she be able to step in, create a smooth transition within our government, continue to provide excellent service to our community, work with staff to ensure that transition happens and happens smoothly. And unfortunately, there's a division going on here, and that's what I just got done talking about. And that's not what we need to have some collaboration. And so I guess that's the question in my mind. That's the question in my mind is, with what all we've got going on with an investigation that needs to move forward. Let's face it, we make mistakes, right? We're passionate about what we do. Otherwise, we probably wouldn't be up here, right? We're passionate about our city. We're passionate about what happens within our community, right? That passion sometimes comes out in wrong ways, right? And sometimes we get a little uncivilized, and sometimes we're okay with agreeing to disagree, right? But in the end, it comes down to doing the job that we were elected for. The legislative body, not personnel managers, not investigators of claims, or anything else. We are here as a legislative body, and we have to be constantly thinking about the bigger picture. And the bigger picture we're discussing today is continuity of government. That's what we're having a conversation about. We have some rifts inside our organization, and we need to understand that, and we need to understand what our job are to the citizens of Oak Harbor. And so I just, again, I'm thinking out loud. This is not a prepared speech. There's nothing on the laptop. It's off here, right? I didn't come in with a prepared statement. I didn't come in with a preconceived, what am I going to say tonight? Okay? I've listened, and that's my thought. That's my thinking out loud. We are here to do a job for the community, and part of that is securing government as we move forward. This is not a question in my mind at all about best moralities or even that this incident is flat out decisions been made, et cetera. Was a line stepped over based upon Councilmember Munn's own comments? Yeah, right? I mean, the reality is when you combine a request not to do something and that request could result in some sort of a physical violence, it's not appropriate. It's not appropriate. What was it intentional? Was it more than that? Was it some underlying, some move or something like that? That's yet to be seen. There's more to come out of this, and I think that investigation will resolve that. But for right now, we're talking about, does the council feel as though Mayor Pro Tem Munns, in the event of the mayor's incapacity, could step in and execute that smooth transition to government, work with the city administrator hand in hand to keep the city moving forward, provide the services to this community? That's our job. And I just want to, again, make it clear. That's my thought process on this, and I'm trying to stay really focused on what my job is, what you folks asked me to do in this community. And I appreciate the opportunity to do so, even though it's tough, even though this is not a position I would want to be in or am happy to be in. I do appreciate the opportunity, and I understand that not everybody's going to agree with what I'm thinking or saying. And that's what's beautiful about this country, right? That we can all get up and we can all talk about it. We can agree to disagree when we need to. We can be civil in this conversation. And that's why I feel really privileged to be able to serve everybody in the community. Thank you.
Councillor Stuckey.
Well, I've said it before. I'll say it again. This is not a good situation. This sucks, just to be blunt. Nobody wins. Lines in the community are already drawn. Are you with Mayor Pro Tem? Are you with administration? These should be two totally separate issues. They kind of got combobulated, even in the comments, the fact that both was stating character witnesses and stuff in support of either one. They should be two separate issues. I kind of have a unique dual role, which I try to keep separate in that I'm up here, but I'm also a funeral director. First, I want to apologize to Ryan. I am so sorry that your wife's passing is the catalyst of this. As the person who helped you at the funeral home, as the person up here, this is not what you want to hear. You lost your wife. This is all insignificant in the scheme of what you've lost. So let me apologize to you. I'm sorry that any of this has gone down. So please accept that, yeah. In my opinion, maybe I'm wrong, the Mayor Pro Tem position is somewhat of a smaller role. There's no increased pay. Not that any of us are up here for the money. There's no increased pay. Run the meetings. In case something happens to Mayor, you kind of step in and keep the ship afloat. But it's not a huge role, in my opinion, and there may be people who disagree with that. I agree we need to move on. The community wants to hear about roads being fixed. I was glad to see in the paper that was being published. They don't want to hear about this distraction. They want to hear about us getting to the business at hand. So if it's okay, because my mind is not made up, I would like to ask Mayor Pro Tem a couple of questions, and feel free to answer or not answer. I guess the biggest question I have, and we can all agree, we want to see the city move forward and move past this issue. Do you think, with you being continuing the position of Mayor Pro Tem, that we can do that?
I would think so. I talked to Mr. Oborn at the meetings, and after, I don't chum around or take him to coffee, or, I mean, you know, but I feel like when I see any staff member, if I see something from AWC or MRSC, I try to cut and paste it, and I send them to him and I say, did you know about this? Might be interesting. I just sent one to the mayor. He wasn't aware for a long time, and then he was for about the mayor exchanges. And I always tried to make sure that Dina Emery had it on his calendar and encourage him to go. And I think he's gotten a lot from it, and I'm really glad. And he represents our city at it. So, yeah, I think I could still do it. I don't understand how this got blown up that I'm going to punch him in the face and that I demand it. I didn't. I made a suggestion, and it was sincere from my heart. I didn't go there. I went there as just Beth. So, yeah, I think I can. But we've all, when we take your office, we all agree to, we're all passionate to examine the situation. And if we lose out on a vote, Mr. Omberg and I lost out on the placement of the wastewater treatment plant. We wanted out of town, but we lost. And that's okay, but I've worked my darndest to be sure that what we have is quality, and if anything needs tweaking with it, that we get it fixed and we think. So, yeah, I think I can, honestly.
And the vote at hand is whether you remain mayor pro tem, not whether or not you remain on this council. You can continue to do those things as not mayor pro tem. What advantage do you think the council gains by having you specifically, as opposed to Wiesner or Ms. Heisen, of having you in that position? I mean, you're still on this council. That does not, this does not change. That's not what we're talking about. That's not what this council has the ability to do. But keeping you in that role, what do you think? Why do you think it's important that you stay in that role? What do you bring that someone else may not?
I think seniority has its place, but not always. I don't think I have not given the opportunity for other people to voice their thing. I try to encourage that. The times that I have been leading a meeting, I try to wait till everyone has spoken, but I have the right to also give an opinion on it. It's a traditional thing. But no, I mean, I would think it would be better someone, Tara's the next most senior, and then after that would be Jim Wiesner. Tara was elected the next round after me, so it would be 2 years after. So.
I want to be clear. I appreciate you on this council. When I was thinking about running for council, I came to you and asked for advice, and I appreciate that advice. There is a place for tradition. I understand that. I value your experience on this council. I mean, you have more than the four new of us combined easily, handily. But I think to move on from controversy, it may be in our best interest to have a new mayor pro tem. Nothing against you, but there's just so much going on that for us to successfully move on, it may need to happen, though I do value your time on this council. So. Thank you.
I appreciate your comments and everyone's comments because that's what we're supposed to be doing. Correct. So, no offense. I believe in myself, but if there's a change that happens, then fine. I will accept it and I will work with it. So, there you go.
So we have a motion and a second, but we haven't heard from all on council. So, if anyone else, make sure that we don't have anyone else before you get called on a second time. Okay, not seeing any, we'll go to Mr.
Am I allowed to also make a motion? Am I allowed to also make a motion?
Well, we have a motion on the floor and a second. I suspect we should be voting on that first. Is our city attorney?
That's correct. You have to vote on the motion currently, unless it's an amendment to the motion.
So could I ask one question before we're going to vote on the motion? before you do, according to Hillary. It's my understanding that, Hillary, you did have a conversation with WCIA about this. Is that correct?
That's correct. I spoke with them about this and the investigation. They're apprised. I'd rather not share that in open session, however.
I understand, but so that was brought up earlier, and they are aware, certainly, of this. So we have a motion. Yes, Councilor Marshall?
Thank you, Mayor. I just didn't want to go to a vote without having said something. I too, like Councilmember Wiesner, don't have anything prepared. I came in here with an open mind, just trying to think and hear everybody's side of it. And I'll be honest with you, this is extremely frustrating and distracting. I volunteered to sit up here because I wanted to help the city, and I feel like this has been a colossal waste of our time. For lack of a better term, no disrespect by that, but I want to move the city forward, and I feel like we are rehashing old things. We're rehashing employee morale surveys, and I'm just disappointed in all of it. I really am kind of tired of it, and I'm disappointed. I wish it didn't come to this. There are two sides. I'm a business owner, and I'm also a coach by nature. And as a business owner, if one of my employees makes a mistake, I don't fire that employee for the mistake. I counsel that employee, I talk to that employee, and I give them the opportunity to make amends and to do things right moving forward. As a coach, I value the chain of command. There is nothing more important than the chain of command. And as a head coach, my assistant coaches are extremely valuable to me. If I cannot be at a practice, if I cannot be at a game, I have to know that my assistant coaches are going to carry on the mission of whatever it is that I'm trying to move forward. And so, Mr. Mayor, I've heard Councilmember Wiesner kind of pose this question, but I didn't hear the answer. How do you feel? And I know, we don't work for you per se. We are here to represent the people, but I would like to know your comfort level in the event that you were not to be able to fulfill your duties as you were elected to do. You have been elected to be our mayor, to lead our city, to be in charge of the administration, to be in charge of the employees. That is not our job. That's not what we were elected for. How do you feel moving forward with Mayor Pro Tem Munns, or would you prefer to see another Mayor Pro Tem? Because that is important to me to know how you feel in terms of your second in command, the person that is supposed to take on your role in the event of your absence. For me, that's a valuable position. I would want somebody that I could count on, that I know I could count on, that I felt like was going to maintain. And so I kind of pose that question to you.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Marshall. I said in my comments pretty clearly that Mayor Pro Tem was involved in two events to attempt to terminate the city administrator. That has not happened and will not, as long as I'm the mayor, unless I have cause. And so I don't feel comfortable, unfortunately, because of that. At this most recent event, and I told Mr. Stevens this, and I feel so sorry for Mr. Stevens. If it was just that event, I don't think we'd be here, probably. It's not just that event. I'm sorry. It's about the last 2 years' worth, so.
Thank you. And Mayor Pro Tem, I do thank you for your service. Not condescending it by any means. I very much value and appreciate your service to the community and your council over the years. And so thank you very much for your time.
Councilor Evans.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'm also pretty shocked at how this has gotten to this point. And everybody knows that I objected to having this hearing, I guess you could call it, without Mayor Pro Tem Munns present. I'm glad that we waited for her to be present. I think it's the right thing to do. As Councilmember Heisen said, what would it be like if it was somebody else? I would hope they would wait for that person to be here too. So I do want to say thank you for that, and I'll support the council's decision on whatever they do. This is a big deal for us. It's become a public spectacle, and yeah, I'd love to see it behind us as well.
Councilor Heisen.
Just a very brief point of clarification. The mayor pro tem doesn't, the position doesn't come with any authority or power or anything like that. It is literally to fill in and chair the meeting in the mayor's absence. There might be some continuity, you're filling in for other things, but by and large, it's not like a vice mayor thing or a fill in for the mayor. That's not the case. So just so that everybody's clear on what the role actually is, I want to make sure that that's clear.
So we're back to the motion. Will you reread the motion, please?
My motion that was we nominate Councilor Tara Heisen as the new mayor pro tem.
Any other input or questions? Councilor Wiesner.
Thank you. You know, I don't know, I guess I just want to talk a little bit about what Councilor Heisen said, because the reality is, in the transition, if the mayor is unable to perform duties and until such time as we, I don't know how, appoint or elect a new mayor, that person does take control of the city, and they take control of the city administrator's position, and they take control. The mayor pro tem, so who's running the city when the mayor is incapacitated? And
Maybe Hillary could weigh in on that.
yeah, Hillary, could you help with that?
Mayor pro tem can't go in and start making personnel decisions. No, we cannot.
Hillary, can you help us out with that?
Hi, my name is
I'm
Joshua.
sorry, can you say that again?
Go ahead. Sorry, Hillary.
So we knew Hillary would have to miss a portion of this meeting.
So Joshua?
Hi, yeah, my name is Joshua. I'm an attorney with Ken & Deason, a colleague of Hillary Evans. She had to step away really quickly for a family emergency.
So did you hear my question, Joshua? We're looking for some clarification here on the mayor pro tem position in the event that the mayor becomes permanently incapacitated, and what is the mayor pro tem's role at that point in time?
To be frank, I'm not entirely sure. I would have to review the municipal code for Friday Harbor to see what exactly the duties and the powers are of the mayor pro tem.
Okay, well, we're in Oak Harbor, so
yeah.
And in a strong mayor government, there's not a standard configuration for that?
Okay, I'm not too entirely sure yet. I can take a look to see what it's like at this right now, and then get back to you on that.
Okay, well, I guess that's that.
So Mayor Pro Tem?
I believe when you were in the hospital and unable to communicate at times, I just was to keep up with things, check in with Mr. Oburn, and keep things running. God forbid if something had happened, I believe the Mayor Pro Tem is sworn in. But if the mayor steps down for whatever reason, health or whatever, the Mayor Pro Tem doesn't, and she can't, or he cannot fire anybody or anything. You just keep the city running, and I'm not sure of the procedure to, the council will elect a new mayor to fill in until the next election. So, but that's all I know. I don't think I'm wrong enough, but I don't know all the particulars.
So I know that staff has provided the two, and in fact, I thought I had it with me, the two paragraphs that relate to Mayor Pro Tem for the city of Oak Harbor. One of them, our code does not address it, except that I believe state law does. So hopefully Joshua can find that, but I believe our staff could. Mr. Olborn, I think that,
He's
okay.
He's bringing it. It's page 103 of the packet. And we are a code city, if that helps out the, our backup attorney there. Page 103.
So the two paragraphs I'm referring to, Mikhail provided those for me just this last week. And I'm not going to try to say what they say. So we know, we all have that, but that's not what I'm referring to. Yeah, but that's not, we all have that in our packet. What I'm referring to is the state RCW has a paragraph that talks about Mayor Pro Tempore.
Is it the one that's listed right here?
Is Mikhail available?
Yeah, Mikhail, do you hear us?
She's probably scurrying.
Yes, she does. Sorry, one sec. We're trying to pull this up. Are you, I believe what you're referring to is RCW 35.27.160. I'm going to try to pull it up right now.
It's a very
Hold on
short,
one sec.
very short.
All right.
Councilor Heisen?
With all due respect and for the sake of moving things along, I think that the details are something that we could be ironing out later.
Call for the question.
Thank you.
Okay. All in favor signify by raising your right hand.
What are we agreeing to now?
This, the motion, the motion.
Oh, I had one more question.
Oh. Okay. Then before we do this vote, we'll turn to Councilor Stuckey.
Yeah, my question's for Councilmember Heisen. I've been on, and I'm not saying this is the case here, but I have been on too many boards and commissions where the person that's been on there long enough just becomes the president. And, well, I'm not saying this is the case here, but it's just, okay, this person's been around a while, let's promote them to that position. And while I understand tradition, tradition isn't always the best just to do it for tradition's sake. So I guess my question for you is, my only reservation with having you as Mayor Pro Tem, to be quite honest, is your attendance here in this council. I do not believe that being on Zoom is equivalent, or Ring Central, I apologize, is equivalent to being here in person at every meeting. Are you able, and can you commit? Now, obviously, if I say, can you commit to be at every meeting, that's not realistic. There will always be something that happens. But that's my main concern with you, to be completely frank. And before I vote for you, I need to know, would you be here in person pretty much every meeting as you're able?
That's a fair question. Sorry, Mayor, is that?
That's
may
fine.
I? Okay.
That's fine.
That's a fair question. I think it's been a year since I missed a meeting. But I think that attendance on Zoom is equivalent. So you and I don't see eye to eye on that. So, but if you're going to chair a meeting, I think that absolutely that every effort should be made to do that in person. Yeah, absolutely. And in terms, and I wholeheartedly agree on the experience thing. Just because of seniority, I don't think that in itself is a qualification. But in addition to having chaired meetings before, I've assisted the AWC with training other cities on parliamentary procedures. So I think I have a pretty good handle on that, and I have an advanced certificate in municipal leadership. So I'm not concerned about knowing the ins and outs of the parliamentary procedure. But if in-person attendance if that's the thing that has to happen, then that's the thing that has to happen. So yes.
Okay, I appreciate that. I will say I value that you seem to be someone who's pretty neutral. I've made a couple comments times that there's just teams that people kind of tell they're on this team, they're on that team. I can't tell that with you, and I appreciate that. I appreciate the neutrality and taking every issue on its own. Again, my only request is, if you are elected, I know we disagree on is in person the same or not. I think it is. So as a request, if you are appointed to that, I would prefer to see you in person as opposed to on Ring Central, though I will miss your cat.
Any other input? Okay, then we will now take the vote. All in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. So we have 1, 2, 3. All opposed? Same sign. So we have 1, 2, and 2 that haven't voted.
Mayor, I'm going to abstain because I think I need to understand what I'm voting for as to what the position really, there's some question here, I guess, in my mind that was brought up because I thought I always had it fairly straight in my mind what the Mayor Pro Tem's ultimate position was, and I like to tend to understand what it is, and I'm voting for the totality of it, and I don't know that I understand. Again, in my mind, I thought I had it clear, but there's been some question brought up. I'd really like to hear from our council as to what powers the Mayor Pro Tem has in the event of a long-term, no offense, Mayor, long-term incapacitation, of yourself. Because it sounds like we got a couple different versions.
Okay, at this point, we have 2 yes, 2 no.
I'm abstaining.
We have 3 yes. I'm sorry, 3 yes.
And my dissension is also, concern of understanding what the role is.
Well, I want to make sure my count is right. I counted 3 here. I did not see a yes.
I seen a yes to my left as well.
Okay, and then, so we do have 4 yeses. I'm sorry.
Who voted yes?
Councilor Heisen and,
I guess my only reason for abstaining, I know I'm going not correctly. I just kind of wanted it to be like last time where we gave Councilmember Wiesner also an option, heard their elevator pitch and picked amongst them. So I'm not opposed to having a new Mayor Pro Tem. I would just like to know if Councilmember Wiesner is also interested. I would like to hear both of them give a reason why they would like to do it, why they think they'd be good at it, and make a vote based on that.
so you're abstaining.
If I can do it, yeah, I'll abstain, but that's my reason for abstaining, I suppose.
Abstention goes with the majority, correct?
I don't believe so.
Can Joshua answer that?
Just to be clear, this is getting a little messed up.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, okay, Mayor Pro Tem did not vote, so.
I'm abstaining because I believe in myself. I know I have told the truth. I didn't threaten anyone. But if there's a change in Mayor Pro Tem, I trust Tara. I've worked with her, and but that's the reason why. I'm voting for myself, and I don't think I did anything wrong on that. Mayor and I will agree to disagree on some other things, but that's not for tonight. It's the threat supposedly that I made against Mr. Oborn, and I never saw or talked to Emma. So I vote on myself, and I'm sustaining, and I have told the truth. Thank you.
So I believe that, help me, Clerk Julie, I think we have 3 yes votes. Yes. And so we have 1, 2, 3, 4 abstentions. Okay, so I don't believe that motion passes. Is anybody having any luck getting the Mayor Pro Tem? Yes, Chief.
Mayor and Council, if you look at RCW 35.23.191, delineates the rules and regulations of the mayor and the Mayor Pro Tem for any code city, of which it says, and I'm not going to read the entire part, I don't have my glasses on, 35.23.191. Google is amazing.
Yeah.
And it's about 3 paragraphs long. However, are those just readers? Yes. Oh, thank you. Nobody sees this. The members of the City Council, at their first meeting each calendar year and thereafter, whenever a vacancy occurs in the office of the Mayor Pro Tempore, shall elect from among their number a Mayor Pro Tem who shall hold the office. The Mayor Pro Tem perform the duties of the mayor, except that he or she shall not have the power to appoint or remove any officer, or to veto any ordinance. The mayor and the mayor pro tem shall have power to administer oaths and affirmations, take affidavits, and certify them. The mayor or mayor pro tem, when acting as mayor, shall sign all conveyances made by the city and all instruments which require the seal of the city. And that is what the duties of mayor pro tem 35.23.191 says. I hope that clarifies it for all.
I'll give council, I guess, a few more minutes to So we have a couple of abstentions. Has this helped? Are you?
Well, I just wanted to comment. I mean, it says right there, that he perform the duties of mayor, except for removing of any officer or vetoing any ordinance. But, an officer, of course, is not staff. I mean, I just want to make sure that we're clear on this. It's a pretty serious job, and there's some pretty big shoes to fill. The person is going, if they had to step into that task, and I certainly appreciate that, holding meetings, right, is the biggest thing of the task. And then we get ribbon cuttings, the mayor pro tem gets to go to a lot of ribbon cuttings, and there are a lot of ceremonial duties associated with the position, and it's for no extra pay, no extra anything, right? And it is more work. You're preparing for the meetings, hosting the meetings, controlling the meetings. Sometimes we're a handful to control. I don't think you can pay enough money for that. But in the end, the job is that next in command, like Councilmember Marshall stated. It's the person who's going to step in, probably during a time where there's a little bit of unsureness, if there was a sudden shift, something were to happen to you, Mayor, heaven forbid, that would, probably be a tough time, and it's going to be that person's position to make that transition. I just wanted to make sure that I was on the same lines with where I was thinking, and that's exactly where I was thinking. Thank you.
Okay, so we still have 1, 2, 3. We do not have 4 votes. We have 3 yes votes, I believe. Correct, Julie?
That's correct, Mayor. The others abstained.
Okay, so that motion fails. Councilor Stuckey.
Now we're getting wrapped, I don't want to say minutia, that's not the best way of putting it. We're getting wrapped up in procedure. Is there any way to make a motion to the effect of what I was describing, of having both Councilmember Heisen and, if he's willing, Councilmember Wiesner up for the possible position, hearing both of them why they think they could be a good job, and vote based on that? Is that a possibility, or is that not a possibility? Because what I don't want is, now that we've struck down Tara, I nominate Jim, and if he accepts, then we're stuck with the one person. We can't choose between the two. Is there any way to do this procedurally correct, what I'm suggesting?
It's your council meeting. So you are the city council. It's my belief that you can.
I don't know how to word the motion correctly, but I would like, if they're willing, to nominate both Jim Wiesner and Tara Heisen. I would like to hear from both of them if they would like to do the position, why they think they could do the position, and then vote between the two of them. And I don't know how best to vote to make that motion. If someone could help me out, I'd appreciate it. And are you interested? I mean, I guess I get that way. You may just say no, in which case this is a moot point. In which case I would have liked to know that before, but I didn't have the opportunity based on procedure.
I would consider it an honor, number one. But I'm here to serve the community. I'm here to serve council. I think that I've shown that I care for this community, and that's why it would be an honor, right? I mean, this is my hometown, right? You get that I'm thinking about it seriously, that your question, because there is a heavy burden that comes with it. Let's face it, we're moving targets a little bit, and that's a targeted position. And but yes, to answer your question, Councilmember Stuckey, if the council decided that they wanted me in that position, I would consider that an honor. Thank you.
So I guess I'm back to, and again, I should have prepared something, but I didn't know how this conversation was going to go. How do we hear from both of them and make that an option? Okay. I'll ask one then the other, because I'm not sure if that was his complete answer. So, Councilmember Heisen, would you like to describe why you think you'd be good at this position?
Again, 10 years on council, so second most senior council person. I've already had the privilege of running several meetings, and I think that those went pretty smoothly. I have probably at the table the most experience in terms of the ins and outs of parliamentary procedure, which is the hardest part of running a meeting. We're hung up on a number of technical things at the moment. So I appreciate your concern, your attendance concerns. As you know, I've been struggling with some health issues, but those have actually kind of leveled off, and it's been a very, very long time since I've missed a meeting. So I think it comes down to experience, and I have loads of free time. I live a block away. I'm able to, be here at a moment's notice if somebody needs anything, if the mayor needs anything. So I'm all in.
And I'm not sure you got the opportunity to fully answer that question, Councilmember Wiesner. Would you like to say why you believe you would be good for this position?
Yeah, thank you for that, Councilmember Stuckey. Well, I certainly do not have the parliamentary experience that Councilmember Heisen has, and I undoubtedly, if I was in that position, I would probably make some pretty good mistakes for everybody to see as I got familiar with that. However, the reason for my, wanting to make sure I understand what the position is it seems to me, again, it's a fairly major position, if something were to happen to the mayor, and I guess that's where I feel as though I could step forward. I run, multiple multi-million-dollar companies. I have a lot of business experience. I've dealt with a lot of staff and employees over the years, and currently manage a team of, I think I've got 22 people working under me, certainly not the size of the city, but I'm currently serving on the Allen County Tourism Board. I'm currently serving on the Oak Harbor Parks Board. I'm on the Public Safety Committee. I've ingrained myself, I think, pretty heavily. I typically attend anywhere from 8 to 10 meetings a month currently on behalf of the city, and certainly have found the political side of being a city councilman different, right? I mean, it's not something that I was born or raised to do. You know, I was born and raised to sell real estate and appliances and drive hydroplanes, right? I mean, but certainly it's been a privilege serving with everybody up here. Again, I know we don't always agree, and that's the beauty of it, right? We're 7 individuals with hopefully 7 different opinions that can somehow merge into some sort of a cooperative understanding to move things forward, as you said. And I think that's what I bring to the table. I think I have that ability to take differing and varying points of view and you know, help bring that to a middle point where we can actually get something accomplished. Because let's face it, we haven't accomplished a lot in the last 2 hours. Thank you.
I agree wholeheartedly with both of you and everything that you said. I believe you definitely have the experience, and you would be much, probably more up to snuff, for lack of a better term, of running the meetings than Councilmember Wiesner. I'm sure there may be some mistakes made during procedures with Councilmember Wiesner, which that's what we have in a city attorney. If any of them are major, hopefully they step in. But I do agree, if something were to happen to Mayor and we needed someone to step in with leadership experience and management experience and personnel experience, I personally think that Councilmember Wiesner might be a better option. So with that, I make a motion that we appoint Councilmember Wiesner as Mayor Pro Tem.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. We'll speak to that. Mayor Pro Tem.
I have a question. Since they were both nominated, I would think we would have a choice. You would go Heisen, Wiesner, or Wiesner, Heisen, and...
If we can do that, I'd be happy to do that.
I mean, that's how you...
Yes.
Yes.
If we can do it that way, I'd be more than open to doing it that way.
Okay.
So we have a motion on the table and a second, though. So we're either going to have to start over.
Okay, so I withdraw the motion.
Well, so we've got to withdraw the second.
I withdraw the second first.
And you're going to withdraw the motion.
You really want to do this, Jim? No. I withdraw the motion to appoint Councilmember Wiesner to Mayor
Okay,
Pro Tem.
So now,
I would like to nominate Councilmember Heisen and Councilmember Wiesner to the position of Mayor Pro Tem to be brought to a vote of the City Council.
we have a motion and a second, and that motion is to elect Mayor Pro Tem, elect Councilor Heisen and Councilor Wiesner as Mayor Pro Tem. Mr. Marshall, did you have a question?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I'd like to again express my frustration with this process. I mean, it seemed like we were fast tracking this thing. We were trying to get it done as soon as possible, holding an emergency meeting. We waited till Pro Tem Munns could come back. And then when the opportunity to vote, we have council members abstaining because we don't have all the information. Well, we don't have all the information because we don't know what was in that HR report. We don't know what was in that lawyer's report that Mr. Stevens has seen that we've asked for, but we're not allowed to see it because of client privilege or client confidentiality. So we can continue to kick this can down the road, and if we're going to do that, let's do that, and let's get all the information. But if we're going to force our hand to do something today, then I'm disappointed my fellow council members didn't have the courage to do what they were elected to do, and that is lead, make a vote, do something, you know? So now it's kind of a foregone conclusion that Mayor Pro Tem is out. We didn't even vote her out, but it's just kind of a foregone conclusion, and we're going to put somebody, renominate Councilmember Heisen when it's already failed once in this meeting. And so I just think this entire thing has gone completely off the rails, and so I would say we either wait till we have all the information, or we stick with the votes that we had, and it failed. And so there's our Mayor Pro Tem, because everybody had the opportunity, and they opted not to do what they were elected to do, and that is lead. And so I'm sorry that I'm getting frustrated, but Yeah, this has just been a colossal, like I said earlier, a waste of time. We've been here for over 2 hours. We've accomplished nothing, and we just continue to talk in circles. And that's not what I signed up for. That's not what I volunteered for. And so I will abstain, and I don't think that's what we should be doing. We're not here to abstain unless there's a valid reason for it. But I'm going to abstain from this vote because, as far as I'm concerned, it's already been done. It's already been voted on. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Marshall. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. Sorry, Mr. Marshall. I just wanted to show, when you going class president or whatever, if you don't have enough courage to vote for yourself, then why are you running? I would like to say I support Heisen just because when you go to make a point to go to the AWC conferences, and there are other times to earn that just first it's the certificate you get, and then to get the advanced certificate for a municipal of leadership. It's a big deal, and it means that you have sat through, you've listened to cities from Seattle and Bellevue all the way down to Twisp that has 1,015 people now. They just went over 1,000. And it opens up to your eyes of what happens in all the cities around, and that's very important. And I think that is a big deal. And Mr. Wiesner, I think we'll have a chance another time, but I will vote this time. All right? And I really highly, I know that she's had some health problems, but she has given us her word, and I will count on that. So I think that that's a big deal to participate in AWC type of things. So there I am. Thank you. I want to move on too. I want a consensus. I want to move on. You're right. This is dragged on. I can't even believe that this even happened to begin with over an innocent comment. But we're there. I will accept that. I don't always like what I hear, and you probably don't always like what I say, but that's where you agree to disagree to be leaders and have been voted in things. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Councilor Wiesner.
Thanks for those comments, Mayor Pro Tem. I just did want to point out that I've been to 3 of the 4 AWC conferences held during my time. There was 2 not held during COVID, but I've been to Olympia twice. I've been to Yakima also. I've also been back to Washington, D.C. Certainly, there's no disputing that I don't have the parliamentary requisites that Councilmember Heisen has, but I do want to make people know that I do participate in those items that are made available to me on behalf of the city.
Help me, Julie. Where are we?
Mayor, you may call for the question and take the vote. You have had additional discussion, so you may revisit the vote.
So the most recent motion.
The most recent motion was to nominate both Council Members Wiesner and Council Member Heisen as Mayor Pro Tem. You would take a vote on each one.
Is Council ready to take a vote on each of those? Yes. We understand Councilor Marshall is abstaining. So we'll go then with Councilor Heisen. There's 4 votes. Okay. And Councilor Wiesner? There's 2 votes. That's correct, yeah.
I wish that was.
So, Councilor Heisen is our next Mayor Pro Tem. Okay? No. Okay. Okay, we're going to take we're going to recess until 8:30. Okay, good evening. I'd like to reconvene this regular city council meeting of the Oak Harbor City Council. It is August 3rd. We've been on a short break, but we're reconvening again here at 8:30 in the evening. We have two more items on our agenda. Both are ordinances and resolutions. It's our understanding that maybe Hillary is not available to present these. Hillary, are you out there? And if not,
no, she's not out there. Again, this is Joshua O, and I'm filling in for her temporarily for tonight.
okay, Joshua, before you get started, then I will remind council that these were both presented at a workshop. Basically, just fairly simple changes in our public records. But we'll start with 7A, ordinance number 1956. Amending Oak Harbor Municipal Code, Chapter 1.14, Public Records. Joshua?
Sure. So ordinance number 1956 is an ordinance that touches on the Public Records Act. It updates Chapter 1.14 of the Oak Harbor Municipal Code, which is a chapter on public records. And its goal is to provide a clear process for requesters to request public records. For example, it provides for an online portal where requesters can request records from the police department or records from all other city departments. It also provides other avenues that requesters can use, such as a method of mailing, emailing, faxing, or people can even call on the phone as well. Finally, this ordinance would streamline the requesting process and provide citizens the greatest possible information regarding the affairs of city government.
Okay, thank you, Joshua. Before I turn to council for questions or comments, I want to confirm that we've not received any public comment.
No public comment on this item.
And give our public that are still with us here this evening an opportunity if they wish to speak to this. If not, then we'll take it to council for questions, comments, or discussion. Yes, Councilor Marshall.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve ordinance number 1956, amending Oak Harbor Municipal Code, Chapter 1.14, Public Records.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second that reads exactly like the recommended motion in your packet. Seeing no questions, all in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. That passes unanimously. Okay, then we'll go back to Joshua. I'm sorry? We're on a roll. Yeah. For 7B, last item for this evening, ordinance number 1960, adopting Oak Harbor Municipal Code, Criminal Code, Section 9A.04.004. Joshua?
Sure. The ordinance number 1960 is an ordinance that gives the Oak Harbor Police Department and the city's prosecuting attorney the authority to enforce state criminal statutes. And these are statutes that have criminal penalties of a misdemeanor or a gross misdemeanor. And so this ordinance adopts by reference the Washington State Criminal Code into the Oak Harbor Municipal Code. And so this would give the city the authority to prosecute newly adopted or recently amended state criminal laws. And lastly, this is a very common provision in most city codes.
Okay, I just wanted to back up slightly and say that that last motion was made by Councilor Marshall and then seconded by Councilor Munns. And then now I want to also verify that we've received no public comment on this.
That's correct, Mayor. We received no comment on this item.
Give the public that's here an opportunity. If they wish to speak to this. Seeing none, rushing to the microphone, I'll turn to Councilor Hoffmeyer.
I move to adopt ordinance number 1960, adopting section 9A.04.004 to the Oak Harbor Municipal Code related to crimes.
Second.
So we've got a motion that reads pretty close to our recommended action in the packet. Long and the short of it is approval of ordinance number 1960. That motion was made by Councilor Hoffmeyer, seconded by Councilor Stuckey. All in favor, please signify by raising your, oh, I'm sorry, whoop, 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 whoop. Too fast here. Councilor Munns.
Thank you, Mayor. Chief Dressler, I'm sure you've looked at this, and I would assume that this would help you in your department with this change in the ordinance, just to make sure we're all on the same page.
Yes. And actually, I just want to point out that what it does do is it gets some changes that occur at a state level that if we're not real on top of it, we miss, and it creates an issue with jurisdiction. And so this solves that, which I think is what brought this. So it does help us. It doesn't hurt us. It helps with that thing, so we're not missing a loop in there somewhere.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Okay, so we'll go back to the council for the vote. All in favor signify by raising your right hand. That passes unanimously. So that concludes our business according to our agenda. And if there is no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second, we got a motion second to adjourn. All in favor say aye. That passes unanimously. Thank you.